Your Utah Jazz are on the road in Houston tonight. Look at that number there, -6, 232. Look at the money line number, -250 on the Utah Jazz. The boys in Vegas think this is going to be a comfortable win for the Jazz, but it also offers a really interesting comparison. What's the right way to build in the NBA? Is it to do what the Utah Jazz are doing and restructure your salary cap, keep veterans on the roster, and try to accumulate draft assets that you can then trade to build? Or do you do what the Houston Rockets do? Trade everything, burn this thing to the ground, get a bunch of draft capital, and play with 17-year-olds for 3 years and hope for the best? It's a big question, and in my mind, I think rebuilding the way the Jazz are rebuilding is the right way to go, because I think it gets you back to a championship much more quickly, and I think it gives your fans something to hang on to. But, Jake, where are you? Are the Jazz the right way to do it, or are the Rockets the right way to do it?
Yeah, I think there's a proven route to success with rebuilding, and I think it's the way the Jazz are doing it, which is Danny Ainge is obviously going to make some significant trades, but you're not making those trades with the intent of just burning it down. You're making those trades with the intent of getting your salary cap right so you can go and make more moves and have more flexibility. My problem with the way that teams like the Rockets are doing it is you're just burning it down to burn it down. You're just burning it down so that you can have more money to play with, but you don't know the direction you want to go to. I view burning it down differently than what the Jazz did. Burning it down is just, let's trade everybody and just start over. But we don't have direction. We don't have, a sense of strategy. We don't have any sort of end goal, really. It's easy to say, like, if you're the Rockets, it's easy to say, well, our end goal is to win a championship. You're not winning a championship anytime soon. And the reason you're not winning a championship anytime soon is because you don't have that vision and strategy and direction. So to me, this is very clear. I think the Jazz and the way they're going about it is proper. The frustrating thing and why we talk about the Jazz so much on the show right now is because they are capable of winning. Like both of these teams tonight, what's funny is they both lost their last 5 games. The problem is with the Jazz, we're surprised by that because the way they're losing these games is very fixable. It's correctable.
Yes.
That's the hard part, is that the way the Jazz are rebuilding is much more clinical, much more proper to me, because you have the way you're going about it is allowing you to be in these games. It's not just lucky that you happen to beat this one team or that team. It's not just lucky that you lost to this team or that team. You lost because you turned it over and you're playing bad basketball, not because you're a bad team. Just like that's the difference. Whereas the Rockets lose because they're a bunch of 17-year-olds that just aren't ready to win.
Yeah, and I think that's exactly right. I think when you look at this Jazz team, I think there's a lot to hang on to with this Jazz team. I actually think there's a lot to be excited about with this Jazz team. I think the question is, how invested is Ryan Smith? And I know we've talked about this in the past, but I think it's a really salient point right now and a really big question if you're a Jazz fan. How much confidence do you have that Ryan Smith is going to lead this franchise to a championship? Because I think there are a lot of questions about that. One of the topics that we talked about on the show yesterday is, what is the bar for sports in this town? And I'm curious if you as a Jazz fan believe that winning a championship for the Utah Jazz is within reach. Because I do. I think the Jazz will compete for a championship in the next 3 to 5 seasons. I think this upcoming trade deadline in just about a month here is massively important. I think they have to do big business, and sources around the league continue to tell me that the Jazz are busy. They are on the phone, and I think they will do business here. But the question is, what is your level of confidence that this Jazz organization is willing to go out and do what has to be done to win a championship?
Yeah.
And I don't know how confident people are. I really don't.
Yeah, I think people would be more confident if Ryan Smith was regularly out in public talking. I think people would feel more safe and more reassured that things were going the right way if Ryan Smith would simply make a statement once a month. Instead of doing it at a media dais, why don't you do it at why don't you and this is the thing with England and Europe and Premier League teams and things like that. There are certain sects of that sport where you get leadership out in the community, meeting people and talking to people. And there's a relatability factor that I think is really necessary. And yesterday on the show, we talked about this, expectation things, and do people treat Salt Lake like a major market even though it's not, which they should be doing. And the problem is that Ryan Smith does own the Jazz. He does own RSL. And I'm not sitting here saying he's doing a bad job. That's not really the conversation we're having. We're having a conversation about what could you be doing better? How much further could you push the envelope with what you have to work with now? And my belief is you could push the envelope quite a bit further. I just don't think they're prioritizing the fan experience outside of the physical game, which is what really matters, which is why, not to go right back to the membership thing we were just talking about, but that was the reason I wanted and we wanted on the show to start doing memberships, because we want to serve you guys because you've been supporting us just the same way the Jazz and BYU and Utah and all of our teams here really should reach out and try to support you and give you more value when you're not watching the show or the game or whatever it is. So that's my struggle with leadership in this town, is like, I feel like Ryan Smith could do a lot more, and he's just not. And again, I'm not sitting here insinuating the guy's just sitting around on his couch drinking a cup of coffee, not doing anything. I respect the fact that the guy is, a billionaire who owns multiple organizations and is really busy. But what I don't buy is that you don't have 5 minutes to spend with media relations, putting out a video on Twitter saying, "Hey, Jazz fans, it's Ryan Smith. I'm literally just in my office and wanted to say hey today."
Yep.
That's not hard to do.
Hey, big shout out to Salty Drunk. He's now a member of the Monty Show channel. Appreciate that.
Let's go,
he
dude.
has exclusive access to video content and our Instagram group. Appreciate that.
You, man. Thank you.
Sean Carden says, if Quinn Snyder coached the Rockets or Magic, they could become great teams because of their athletes. This is a really interesting comment here, because I think one of the biggest moves that Ryan Smith, Danny Ainge, that this group made was moving on from Quinn Snyder. I think that was a huge move for this team, and I think Will Hardy's the right guy. But I've been surprised that a lot of Jazz fans are wondering if Will Hardy is a good coach. I think Will Hardy's done a pretty good job with this team, but you knew there were going to be growing pains with Will Hardy. Is this Jazz team better with Will Hardy or with Quinn Snyder? I don't think there's any doubt they're better with Will Hardy. There's no doubt about that. That doesn't mean that Quinn Snyder doesn't have a place in the league or that Quinn Snyder did a bad job for this team, because he didn't. But they needed to move on from Quinn. And I think Will Hardy's the right guy, because you're going to be bad for 2-3 years, right? I think we all realize that.
Yeah.
You're going to be bad.
Well, that was the game plan.
Yeah, so there's nothing wrong. Absolutely, there's nothing wrong with hiring a young coach who's going to make mistakes. He has made mistakes, in my opinion, but you're not going to see those mistakes repeated over and over again. And I think that's why Will Hardy's the right guy at the right time for this club. Will he be the head coach when they win a championship? I don't know. That's to be determined. Maybe, maybe not. But right now, I think Will Hardy's the right guy.
I think it's unfair to compare Will and Quinn, because I think, one, success for Quinn was very clear. Get to the Western Conference Finals. That was success. Anything short of that is not successful. Don't care what your regular season record was, right? But success for Will Hardy looks very different, and I think this is why people are asking the question if he's a good head coach, because success really is not, hey, get to this juncture of the season or get to this team achievement, right? That's not success this year. This year's success is develop guys. Well, what does that look like? That's an opinionated thing, right? Like, we can sit here and say, well, Colin Sexton is developing, and then maybe he thinks he's not, or you know what I mean? Like, it's just such a cloudy thing for Will right now. That's why I think you got to have patience with it.
Yeah, I agree. Hey, how about that? Nameless Ghoul 911.
Welcome.
Is our newest member. Make sure you DM us. By the way, as you become a member, DM The Monty Show, Monty, The Monty Show on Instagram, and we will put you into the exclusive members-only group. Appreciate that, Nameless School. Richard McDonald says, Smith definitely has deep enough pockets. I guess we'll find out how willing to dig into them he is. The black jerseys are dog S. Okay, so they're actually the only ones I like. And it'll be interesting. Austin Napierski's going to the Jazz game with us next week.
Yeah.
And one of the things you'll get, by the way, when you become a member of the channel is you're going to find out about our promotions first. But Austin Napierski won the Jazz promotion where we take him +1 to the Jazz game against Donnie and the Cavs. I'm interested to see what Austin Napierski's going to do.
Yeah.
Is Austin going to get a jersey, a sweatshirt? What's he going to get? We're going to buy him something in the team store. It'll be interesting to see what he gets.
Yeah.
Richard, thanks for the $10 tip. Appreciate that. Eric in Raleigh says Quinn Snyder did the very best with the talent he had. They just had the Warriors in their way. Well,
I think there's something to that, but I think that that's a great point, Eric. I think that locally people had a lot of emotion around Donovan and Rudy and Quinn and that dynamic. And I think that at the end, because of what happened, people lose sight of what this team was in their prime. And I think that's a shame. But
yes,
I think it's the natural occurrence of how sports goes. When you get heartbroken in sports, you don't give a damn that you don't care about, Donovan Mitchell doing this or Rudy Gobert doing that, or you don't care about a 60-win season or whatever they had when they were the number 1 seed. You don't care about any of that.
That's right. Yep.
All you care about is, our team sucks now. Now what? Now I got to wait till football season? Is that what you're telling me? That's the problem.
Man. Kenai Johnson did us all dirty. He brought up the name Ty Corbin. Whoever don't like Will Hardy is the fan that wants Ty Corbin back as head coach. Can I? Let's not go overboard.
Savage.
Let's not go overboard because I think we all are well aware nobody wants Ty Corbin to be the head coach.
Yeah.
I mean, nobody wants Ty Corbin to be the head coach. Nobody.
Yeah.
Nobody. All of our Jazz talk on this show presented by Quick Quack Car Wash. Make sure you go and hook it up at Quick Quack. You know it's supposed to rain and snow this afternoon. No problem. Quick Quack Car Wash has you in and out in 5 minutes. I go to the one in South Jordan at the District, and as I always tell you, I love that I don't have to talk to a machine. I do. Jake is a big fan of the self-checkout. I am not. Self-checkout is dumb.
Self-checkout's different than a car wash, though, and that's why we love Quick Quack, because you get a person when you're sitting in your car. Like, one of my biggest pet peeves in life, whether I'm at Quick Quack or, I'm in a parking garage or whatever.
A parking garage is the best.
Like, one of my biggest pet peeves is you got to, when you're going to a Jazz game, right? You're going to a Jazz game, and we all know that garage that's got, the 10-foot curb that you're worried about while you're trying to pull up to the little kiosk and you're reaching for your life. You don't have to do that at Quick Quack. You roll up. They ask you for your name, or they take your plate. They know your name, and you're good to go.
And the guy always says, "Hey, Monty, how are you?"
Yeah.
He doesn't know who I am.
Yeah.
But because he puts my license plate in there and has my name in there, he hands me. They give you a free dashboard wipe. It's great. Bring the kids too, because there's a bunch of colors and lights and stuff. Quick Quack Car Wash presents all of our Utah Jazz talk on the Monty Show. No to that dirty name. Louis Capazzo says exactly right. Exactly right. Can I, man, don't ever bring up that name again. Do not.
I'm going to get medieval on your ass.
And let's be honest, though. Ty was a good dude. Ty is a nice dude. Ty's a nice guy. Ty Corbin's a good...
He was a fill-in for the guy who replaced the guy who replaced the guy. That's what Ty was.
Totes. I totally agree with that. Josh Lovering, good morning. He says, Will Hardy is a quality coach. Is Will a yes man, though? Well, he could be. He absolutely could be.
Right now he is.
And you kind of need him to be because... Again, maybe Ochai Agbaji is the best example of this. Maybe Nickeil Alexander-Walker is the best example of this. You need to be able to go to Will Hardy and say, hey, we need to get Ochai more minutes. We need to really understand where he is and where he can go. Does he need more G League time? That's the biggest question. Because what I can tell you is, if Will Hardy doesn't want to play Ochai Agbaji, it's a problem.
Yeah.
If Will Hardy doesn't want to give Walker Kessler more minutes, it's a problem.
Well, and I think the cool thing with Will is you see what he wants to do, and then he just goes and does it. I think it was really smart by him. Take the Nickeil Alexander-Walker thing, the NAW and THT situation for minutes distribution.
Yes.
NAW just came in and took those minutes, right? And the source of that was Will giving NAW extra minutes for one game, right? One game got NAW all these extra minutes now. And he's cooled off a little bit, and he's no longer everyone's, sliced bread, if you will, but he's still getting good minute distribution. And now it's up to Agbaji to do that same kind of thing. The problem is for whatever reason, Agbaji just is not making the three at the NBA level, which is fascinating to me because it is the same game. It's just faster. That's it. The game moves faster. And to me, I think he's just adjusting to that. The line doesn't move, right?
Yeah.
That's the difference.
Are you surprised that Talon Horton Tucker has not played a single minute. And I'm going back through his game log. I don't see that he's played a game since December 22nd.
Yeah, it's a long time, dude.
Are you surprised that he has fallen so quickly out of favor, THT?
On some level, but also not so much. Like on some level, yes, because he can shoot it a little bit. He's got a good body. Like he can do some things. The problem is he shoots it too much, right? He doesn't have a good grip on when he should play within the set or when he needs to create. Because that's his strength. He can create for himself.
Yeah.
And that's the trouble on this team. Like the Jordan Clarksons, even NAW, even sometimes Mike. Like these guys got to find that balance of when to create for themselves and when to run the set.
Yes, I agree. Salty Drunk, who's a member of this channel now, thank you, sir. Didn't the front office have problems with Quinn on minutes distribution? They did.
Yeah, they did.
Your guy Joe Ingles was one of those guys.
Yeah, they were pissed he wasn't playing Joe enough.
Yeah.
And I think that
Absolutely.
I think this conversation around is Will Hardy a yes man? He needs to be a yes man whether he wants to be or not, because he and Danny Ainge are buddy. And I guarantee you, Danny said, hey, if you're going to take this job, this is, you're going to have to be a yes man here on some level.
And I think the Joe Ingles minutes thing, I mean, you were playing him too much. Now you're not playing him enough. Like it became uncomfortable. So I agree with that. Maury Alvarez, who's also a member, thank you for that. Ty Corbin was a good player, loved him, but a horrible coach.
Yeah.
Ty Corbin's a DePaul Blue Demon. He went to DePaul in Chicago. That's my guy, but not as a coach. He's a great assistant. He is a great assistant.
Yep. And that's okay. I hate when we're like, oh, well, dude is only capable of being a great assistant, as if that's not a great thing.
Yeah.
Right? Like that is a great skill.
Yep, I agree. Richard McDonald says, how do I join? I'm late today. Again, not to be Mr. Sales guy.
No, do it. Yeah, do it.
But there is the join link right there.
So,
I just put it in the comment.
2 minutes on this. YouTube is working on renovating the mobile app that a lot of you guys watch on. And so right now with the membership thing that we're talking about today, there's not a join button on the mobile app if you're watching,
which is where everybody watches this show.
And YouTube knows that, right? So like YouTube is working on adding that, but it's not there right now. So you can find the link in the chat. He's just put it in there, or you can just go to his Twitter, The Monty Show. And that's where I would recommend you go. That's probably the easiest if you have any trouble with that link, which I don't think you should, but if you do, just go to his Twitter and it's right at the top there.
Totally agree. BB says, Rudy gave minutes over young guys. Will Hardy, come on. Well, and I actually don't disagree with this at all, BB. I think you're exactly right. I think it's very difficult to continue to watch Rudy Gay take minutes on this team. And it doesn't matter who you want to play. Give somebody else Rudy Gay's minutes, because he's got value. He just doesn't have value to a rebuilding team. Rudy Gay needs to be the 10-11 guy on a Milwaukee Buck team. He needs to be the 10-11 guy on a Brooklyn team. Go somewhere where they need a little bit of offense and not a whole lot of defense, because he just is not a guy, in my opinion, that can defend at a high level right now, but he can defend the 4-5 a little bit. And his highest value to me is as a spot-up three-point shooter. That's what he does well. I don't want him dribbling a whole lot, even though I know the other day he dropped what's his name from the Heat in the corner there, hit that jumper. Like, that's all well and good, but the turnovers, he's not a fit. Rudy Gay's not a fit on this team.
He misses a lot of shots that are gimmies.
Yeah, he's not a great fit.
Yeah.
Pied Piper, join the membership. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Remember, for the Instagram group, you need to DM us because Instagram and YouTube aren't connected. So there's a lot of you joining. Please DM us on Instagram so we can add you after the show.
Yeah, and the details are, hey, if you're a member on our show, if you subscribe to our membership, it's $10 a month. You're going to get exclusive video content every day. We make a video just for our members, and then we're going to have a Instagram group that we already have, by the way. And again, shout out to Arlington Bears. He was the first member of the show. He was the first member of that group. But that group is together, and we're going to chat. Like during the Jazz game tonight, we'll be chatting in that group with you guys about Jazz basketball. Ken Scott, the former Utah alum, is on the show in an hour from now talking Utah football in the direction of the program. We'll chat about that stuff. Like, you'll always get access to things first. You'll always get access to our insider information.
When we do giveaways.
What giveaways? You'll be the first one to have access to merch. So, yeah, absolutely. Join. Appreciate you doing that. Also, Richard McDonald, thank you. He is also now a member of our our little YouTube community. Appreciate you doing that. Salty Drunk says Rudy Gay needs to be Blake Griffin. He does.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I think Blake did a great job of sort of, transforming himself into that, firecracker off the bench. And I think it elongated his career for sure.
Yep. Chase Everett says, if tanking is part of the strategy, now is the time to experiment with lineups. Tanking's such an interesting word because as we talk Utah Jazz basketball on the Monty Show, I just don't know. Tanking in its traditional form is not what this team is doing. I mean, you don't tank and lose games by 2 points.
Right.
You do what San Antonio did last night, which is just not inbound the ball and turn it over.
No.
That's what you do when you're tanking. You play all of your young guys. You don't play Rudy Gay minutes when you're tanking. This team's clearly not tanking in the traditional I'm tanking mode, right? I think what you're seeing, though, is I don't think it's the end of the world when this team loses a game. And I think it's really interesting that when you look at these things and you start to understand where this Jazz team is, I think there's a lot of opportunity for this team.
Yeah.
And it's a matter of, do you want this team to make the playoffs or not? But let's be really clear on one thing. They're not in the hunt from a win-loss perspective for Victor Wembanyama. Probably not for Scoot Henderson. Like, you want those guys, you're going to have to trade up to get them. Mm-hmm. The problem is their draft assets are not great. If we're truth-telling on this show, and that's what we say, hey, the Monty Show is the truth in Salt Lake sports talk. If we're truth-telling on this show, their draft assets are not great. I don't know that their draft assets alone would move them up into position to draft Victor Wembanyama.
Yeah, it almost feels like the draft asset situation or conversation very much feels like, hey, you have a lot of draft assets, and that's what's going to be the value, not so much that those draft assets are like the best thing we've ever seen in the draft. That I think is the difference that's kind of come to light. And that's why I say, like, when we were talking earlier about like rebuilding paths, like the way the Jazz are doing it or the way the Rockets are doing it or even like the way the Brooklyn Nets did it, right?
Yeah.
Acquiring all this talent. It's very clear. The teams that do it quickly and do it properly are rare, but when they do it, it's very successful. And that's why I say as a Jazz fan, don't hold or hinge on win-loss. That's not what that's not what you should be doing. What you should be doing is hinge on comments like BB had or some of these other guys have had about, hey, like, why are we playing Rudy Gay over young guys? Those are the wins or losses within these games right now.
Yeah, totally agree. And I am a Nickeil Alexander-Walker fan. I want to see more. I want to see more from him. I want to see more from Ochai. I want to see more from Walker Kessler. I think we're watching almost on a minute-to-minute basis Walker Kessler become a better player. I don't think there's any doubt about that. So I want to see more from him for sure. Luis Capazzo says, all those slivers from riding the pine has got to hurt. Someone get THT a pair of tweezers and a mirror. He needs them both. Ooh, cold-blooded, bro. But I don't disagree.
Got a quick, not to sidetrack the show. In our Instagram group, because I just want to keep talking about this, Chris Karn has graduated from watching us on a phone to watching us on this new TV he just bought.
Really?
Yeah. So now he's on the new TV. So
I like it.
And he's hung it on the wall, and he's got his little sound bar.
Oh, wow.
It's pretty slick, dude.
I like it.
Nice
Way to
work.
go, Chris Karn.
Nice work, dude.
Yeah, I like it. I like it a lot. I love guys that watch us on TV. That's phenomenal. Appreciate that. Let's see. Richard McDonald says, if y'all here every day, buy super chats or memberships. These boys need support or we will eventually won't be able to do this with each other. Great little community going here. It's not a matter of join the membership because we're desperate.
Yeah.
What it is it buys time. That's what it does. And we're looking for ways to be more interactive. I think one of the wins on this show, not to be arrogant about it, but one of the wins on the show is we're constantly talking with you guys. We tweet with you. We Instagram with you. We talk with you on the show. Like, the show is over and then it just keeps on going.
Yeah.
Because we're talking to you guys. We're like a 365 community here. Like, it's every day. Like, that's what this is about. And yeah, I appreciate that, Richard. Thank you for the support. Chase Average says, yeah, Instagram is all part of the metaverse, not the Google umbrella. Yeah, it is absolutely.
We really considered that too. It's funny you bring that up because we literally had that conversation yesterday about like, Well, great. We're asking our listeners and our viewers to pay for something, right? Which we haven't done really before. I mean, we've done some light merch stuff.
We've really tried to stay away from it.
Yeah, we've tried to stay away from asking you guys to pay for stuff, but we felt like, hey, if we're going to ask you to pay for something, we want to make sure that we bring as much value as we can possibly bring. And so, to Richard's comment there and to what you said, like, it's not necessarily that we need the money per se. But if we're going to, what allows us to bring you more of that content, more of that interaction, and more of that behind the scenes personal time is time, right? So that is the trade-off, and that's essentially what you're paying for is time and more interaction and more personalized stuff. And I know I keep saying this, knowing about the giveaways in the future is a big deal because you are going to have to get into those giveaways. The earlier you're in, the better chance you're going to have.
And members always get 5-to-1 entries. And that too. If you're not a member, you get 1 entry. If you're a member of the show, you get 5 entries. So you have 5 times more chance to win a weekend at spring training with us than you do somebody who's not a member. Things like that.
Yeah. That's
why you become a member. All right, talking Jazz basketball. Jazz, by the way, is anybody surprised that the Jazz are a 6-point favorite and the money line is minus 250?
Yeah, I think this game is going to be a barn burner tonight. I think the 232 number, in my opinion, is a little light. I think this is 100. This is like 120, 118. This is like low 120s to high teens kind of game. And the 232 number kind of suggests that 117-ish area where I feel like one of these two teams, and it could be the Rockets. I'm not sitting here saying that I'm, just over the moon confident about the Jazz in this game, but I do think one of these teams is going to crack like 120, 125.
But when's the last time the Jazz were this awful on the money line? Like you have to bet $250 to win $100. Like who's doing that?
Yeah.
Like that's crazy. The line on the game tonight tells you, let's see. Eric and Raleigh says, when are you guys going to expand the network and new shows to follow your show? Oh God, why did you bring this up? Take over the Salt Lake City market. Jake absolutely rides me about this on a regular basis. Yeah. We talk about it all the time.
I think, I have no problem talking about it a little bit. Like, I think that's in the cards for sure. It's funny you bring that up. I think the conundrum is that if we're going to add somebody or we're going to bring someone into the fold, the quality can't go down and the feel of it can't change too much. Well, and that's what we're hesitant on.
The X and O's is we've built a really strong algorithm with YouTube.
Yeah.
We have if you search Utah Jazz, you're going to see 1,000 of our videos. If you search BYU football, BYU, Utah football, like you're going to see the Monty Show.
Amazon deal.
You're going to see the Monty Show. We've built a really strong algorithm because you guys do a great job supporting the show. You click the like button, which is a huge part of that. That's why we're constantly telling you, hey, give us a thumbs up, please. When you look at how long our average watch time is through the roof, man, like people watch this show for 20 to 25 minutes a day. That stuff makes a huge difference. If you bring in a new show and you put them on your YouTube channel and people watch for 3 minutes and they don't hit the like button, it absolutely tanks the entire channel.
Yeah.
So it's something that you really have to calculate. You have to be really careful. Anton says, I'm not familiar with what that minus 6,232 means. So what that means is, and it's always next to the favorites team. So let me put this banner back up here. What this graphic right here means is, and read it from left to right with me, Utah Jazz minus 6. They're a 6-point favorite. 232.5. The over-under is 232.5. The combined score between the two teams is 232.5. That means the boys in Vegas think that both teams are going to score 116 points. Is somebody going to score 117? Is somebody going to score 133 and somebody's going to score 100? Do you think the two teams will combine for more than 232 points combined? That's the question. And then minus 250 is what we call the money line, right? So if you want to bet on the Jazz tonight just to outright win the game, you have to put $250 down to win 100.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line. If there was a plus 250, that means you'd have to put $100 down to win $250. So it's all gambling-ese, and that's what that means. Do you guys care about gambling lines? That's something else we've talked about a lot.
Yeah.
We've talked about that a lot. Let's see. Maury Alvarez, who's a member, says, speaking of, smash the like button, only 36 likes so far. Wow, is that? Yes, we've had almost 1,000 views, and we have 39 likes. That hurts my groinial region. Let's see. Lopes fan Gabe, who's also a member, says, Mrs. Monty and Tanner RSL show coming in hot.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I would love to hear some desires. One of my favorite things to do on the show is ask you guys what you want. I mean, if you want, and I'm not even joking, if you want a soccer show, that's something that we can consider. Like, if you want a gambling show, one that's I mean, you know, like the gambling networks that talk over unders and what we were just saying. If you want a show like that, let us know. We are considering it. But what he was talking about with the algorithm and tanking the channel, that is something that we have to be very, very careful with, because we do have a really good thing going here, and we just don't want to wreck that at all.
Yeah, absolutely. Sean Carden, as we talk Utah Jazz, says, I would also like to see Johnny Juzang play. Was hyped as a player at UCLA. Let's see what he can do. And he's pretty good in the G League. Jake and I have seen him play. I just don't know that there's room for him, right? He's got to refine a little bit. The interesting guy is Frank Jackson. When does Frank Jackson get run with the Jazz? I think he's injured again. He did not play last night for the Stars. But when does Frank Jackson get run with the Jazz? That's a guy that on a team where the Jazz are, he's a guy that can give you those Rudy Gay minutes. He's a guy that you could, play small ball with. He's a guy that he's somebody that I think can play the 1, 2, or the 3 in this league. It's just a matter of what the Jazz want. I'm a little surprised because he's played really well in the G League. I'm surprised the Jazz or somebody else have not snatched him up to play on the rest of the guy. Shoots 40% from 3. I'm a little surprised that you don't give him some run.
Yeah.
A little surprised. Let's see. Josh Leverett says, Eric and Josh, we're ready to go. Exactly right. Kurt Myers says, nothing on the screen. What does that mean?
Nothing on the screen?
Kurt Myers, explain that. What do you mean? Let's see. Lobes fan Gabe, people are watching 20 to 25 minutes per day. You got to pump those numbers up, casuals. Those are rookie numbers. Yeah, the average view time is huge. It's a really important statistic to YouTube. And on our live show, our average view duration's between 20 and 25 minutes ish.
Which is, if we're being honest, that's elite.
It's outstanding.
By YouTube standards, that's pretty ridiculous watch time.
Yeah. Chase says, I don't speak Vegas. Jeff Johnson says, I don't mind the gambling numbers. I just don't understand them because I don't participate, but I think it's interesting. It's such a baked in part of sports now.
Yeah.
I cannot tell you how many people on a weekly basis say, oh, well, hey, man, what do you think of this game? Or, hey, where would you go? What side of this?
Remember Utah USC? Remember the first Utah USC game? Not the second one, but the first one. Dude, when we were in the week of that game leading up to it, we probably got, I'm talking about probably 20, 30 DMs about, hey, what is the line? What do you think? Can Utah's defense hold down Caleb Williams? Can Cam do enough for them to win? A lot of people are about it.
Oh, look at that! Look at who our newest member is. The one and only Giggity. Maybe,
attaboy.
Maybe next to Lopes fan Gabe, who I think is the longest tenure, OG member of the show. I think, and maybe we need a sound effect every time somebody becomes a member.